Good evening, everyone. I'm Jake Lockwood. I'm a four-year sixth former. So my chapel talk is going to be about finding yourself. I know it's kind of broad and vague, but you'll probably understand by the end of this. I remember freshman year, I was sitting in that booth, second from the back all the way to my left, way on the end, because I didn't really get along with a lot of kids. I was really quiet and shy. And I don't remember exactly who gave the first chapel talk, but I was sitting there, and afterwards I thought, wow, I really want to give one of those. That's so cool. That's so great of them to share all that stuff about themselves, and I really need to give one. But it was difficult for me to decide what it would be on. I, of course, wanted it to be the best, naturally. So what I thought I would give it on, I kind of thought of on and off for about 4 years. What I thought it would be on changed over those 4 years, but it floated around the same sort of idea. I wanted to help people. I wanted to be a role model for someone. I wanted to tell people that everything will be okay, because that's what I needed and that's what I wanted when I was a little freshman. And if just a single person walks out of this chapel feeling a little better and maybe having a little hope, then I will consider this a success. So originally, I was going to talk about my experience and how it's been affected by being a member of the LGBTQ community, but I knew that that would really only apply to a very few people in the room, and most of your eyes would just glaze over and you'd just wait for me to stop talking. But however, if you need someone to talk to about that, I will drop everything to talk to you about that. It's very important to me, and I know that often that sort of comment goes ignored by people who really need it, but it is there, and it really means a lot to me when people come to me with stuff like that. Anyway, instead I want to focus on a sort of bigger message that I think everyone in this room can relate to, and that's being uncertain, afraid, and ashamed of yourself. I know it's kind of hard to believe that someone who wasn't confident or didn't think very highly of themselves would get up and share it in front of the whole school, but that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I think the most important thing in finding and being your true self is being prepared to delve deep inside yourself, but also being ready to accept whatever you find. Even if it's good or bad, you need to embrace it. I know we all have things we like to deny about ourselves and hide away from others, but I really think that accepting these things is the first step to a happier and more fulfilling life. Now, I'm not promising you some sort of cookie-cutter, one-size-fits-all sort of deal. That doesn't exist. Life's more complicated than that. What I am trying to do is maybe open your eyes a little and make you think. For me, of course, my sexuality was a big part of myself that I didn't like, and I tried to hide away. And learning to accept myself for that is a sort of easy-to-explain example of this whole concept. And I'll give some other ones later on from other people I've talked to. So this whole philosophy for me really solidified during my time at the Island School. I was at the Island School for the fall semester of my fifth form year, and it was a semester away school, and it was probably one of the greatest experiences of my whole life. The Island School is on a little island in the Bahamas called Eleuthera, and if you think Millbrook is secluded in the middle of nowhere, literally it's like a bustling metropolis compared to that. We had no phones, no internet, we couldn't even get letters or mail, so it was basically the Stone Ages, and my world was very small for a couple months. There, I met some really amazing people, made some fantastic friends, and did things I never thought I could in my wildest dreams. This included, but was not limited to, camping, which I used to hate, but now I know why I hate it. Learning to identify and eat ripe coconuts, passion fruit, nettle palms, papayas, jumping off a 30-foot cliff, riding my bike no-handed, wrangling sea turtles, swimming 4 miles in the open ocean, and holding a spider in my hand. These tested my sheer willpower and really pushed me outside my boundaries. I have a few short stories surrounding those last two. The 4-mile swim was a required event, but you could also do a half marathon run. So I opted for the swim because 4 miles sounded really easy in comparison to half a marathon. That was before they showed us what we would be swimming. We went out on kayaks one day to the opening in the marina, and our counselor said, "This is where you guys are going to start." Okay, A couple hours of paddling later, probably 4 hours of paddling. Hey, you see that big rock over there? Yeah? That's the halfway point. That's where you turn around. You have to swim all the way back afterwards. This was after hours of paddling in boats. Anyway, fast forward a few months, and here comes the big day. There were a few complications that we had to overcome, such as currents going against us, so like running on a treadmill. The bus that we rode in to the place where we would start only played one song, and it was Hips Don't Lie by Shakira on repeat. It was also really early in the morning, so it was kind of fun, and then we realized that that was the only song it could play, so it became much less fun. And some surprise company on our journey. This included the occasional ray, hordes of jellyfish, and yes, even a shark or two, and sometimes more depending on who you were. This task was psychologically daunting too. Nothing to do but swim for 4 or more hours, and you can't even talk while doing it, unless you want to swallow an entire ocean's worth of seawater. Me and this other kid stuck together for the company, and we entertained ourselves by splashing each other and pointing out cool fish. I also took it upon myself to clear the way of jellyfish, since I was immune to their stings. By clearing the way, I meant I would pick them up out of the water and throw them as far as possible. And only occasionally would I accidentally aim at one of my friends. So imagine you're just swimming along, and you're getting kind of tired. You've still got a mile or so left, and you're like, maybe I'll take a break. Maybe I'll just slow down a bit. And you look below you, and you see this kind of eerie shape in the water that you know what it is, but you pretend that you don't know what it is, and it's swimming below you. I did not slow down. I literally did the equivalent of sprinting for the last mile. Now, for the spider story. Those of you who know me know that I am terrified of spiders like most sane human beings. My arachnophobia has gotten better, probably because of this experience, but it was a really low bar to begin with, so I don't think it could have gotten worse. As far as spiders go, Eleuthera is really the deep end, in my opinion, because it's home to tarantulas, black widows, and banana spiders. For those of you in the audience who aren't insect enthusiasts, they're all terrifying. Fun fact, spider eyes glow in the dark. So just think about getting up in the middle of the night, waving your flashlight around, and you think, oh, there are stars everywhere. That's so pretty. And then you realize that they aren't stars, and they're everywhere. So I didn't have the worst experience, though. I didn't wake up with a tarantula on my face like Lila, and I didn't find a black widow in my tent like Wyatt. But I did have some other kind of bad encounters with the last one, banana spiders. So they aren't venomous, unless there's some confusion. Bahamian banana spiders aren't venomous. Brazilian ones are. Regardless, they're like this big. They're huge, and they're everywhere, and they build these giant webs in between every single tree. So there I was, walking through the unexplored jungle with my best friend Sam, climbing over fallen buildings and long abandoned vehicles looking for this fabled banyan tree. After about an hour or so of silent trekking through the deep woods, I turned to him and say, "Hey, are you sure we're heading in the right direction?" Spiderweb, right in my face. And I screamed, like the loudest scream I think I have ever done. Someone could literally jump out of my closet tonight with a knife to murder me, and I'd scream at 60% the volume I did right then. After a couple minutes of frantically brushing myself off, plenty of curses that would shock a sailor, and double-checking I didn't have the spider on me, Sam started laughing. I shoved him in front of me and demanded he go first from now on. He got a spider web of his own, and I made sure to laugh at him, although he wasn't nearly as loud or terrified. Later that semester, CJ, who is a master of all insects, caught one and asked if I wanted to hold it. After summoning all the willpower in my body, I rolled down my sleeve so that I covered my hand, and I stuck it out, and I turned the other way, and I closed my eyes and said, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, did you put it on?" He's like, "Yeah, just turn around." And I turned, and there it was, slowly climbing up my arm, and I almost fainted. So he took it off. I was very proud of myself that day because I had faced my fears. He was not very proud of me. That's fine. These were just some examples of the many shenanigans we got up to. Tangent aside, I want to kind of bring it all back because I could go on and on about all the stupid, fun, and incredible things we did together. The bottom line is we had been through so much. We had seen each other at high highs and low lows. We'd seen each other terrified, laughing, and crying. And we would stick by each other through anything. I don't use this phrase often because, honestly, I detest how lightly it's used sometimes, but we really were like family. Now, the island school was not a utopia by any means. We didn't all gather around the campfire singing Kumbaya every night. There were fights, drama, complaints, long sleepless nights, sickness, injuries, and bullying. For a while, it was a pretty toxic community. This all stemmed from a group of kids we deemed the Squidwards. I personally loved this name because of my love for SpongeBob, and it informed me that I was not the only SpongeBob enthusiast there. Now, the Squidwards hated everyone and everything. They also had a way of making us hate each other and ourselves. You know the kind. They managed to take up so much space and ruin everything they got their hands on. Hey, your music sucks. You're talking too loud. You're stupid. You're annoying. No one likes you. Maybe you just stop and people will like you. You know everyone hates you, right? Those kind of people. They actually got kicked out. To be frank, we were all very happy about it. Not to be rude, but we were better off without them. In a sort of dorm disclosure we had that night, we all looked at each other and let out a sigh of relief. With one exception, Carver. He was an older brother to all of us, and universally liked and respected by the students and faculty. He was kicked out when the Squidwards peer pressured him into going out drinking with them. I bring this up only to point out that everyone's actions matter. Don't be a Squidward. People will remember you for what you did. We all remember Carver fondly and the Squidwards as a bad memory, a faceless waste of time that robbed us of enjoyment. It was a true case of getting out what you put into something. And I know it might not seem like it sometimes, but kindness doesn't go unnoticed, and neither does being an asshole. With the Squidwards out of the way, campus dynamic changed drastically overnight. No one stood in the way of us being us. We were free to crack jokes, talk, sing, dance, listen to music, go swimming, play games, eat, have dorm movie nights, and sleep without constant negativity being thrown at us. And yes, beforehand, literally none of this was possible. The dorm was always full of music, laughter, and kids just hanging out. The beaches always had kids swimming, sunbathing, and playing spike ball. Because of this, I began to change. We all did. We were able to find who we were and who we wanted to be and strive to be that person every day. I think the two places you can see this the best are our High Rock pictures and our DOLs. So jumping off of High Rock is an island school tradition where in both the first and the last week, you jump off a cliff. And right before you do, they ask you to turn around for a picture. Most of us managed to fake an awkward smile for the first one, but you could tell we were all nervous and scared of the unknown that we were literally about to plunge into. The second set of photos had two key differences. One, we looked awful. I mean, absolutely awful. We were sunburnt, our hair was full of sand and salt, and hadn't seen a brush in weeks. We had bags under our eyes, and we were covered head to toe in bruises, acne, cuts, rashes, and bug bites. The second difference, we were all beaming like we were having the time of our lives, because we were. We got over that whole illusion that looks matter pretty quick because when it's 6:30 a.m. and you're sweaty and running a few miles before the sun has even risen, no one cares if you're wearing the same shirt you slept in or didn't brush your hair or do makeup because we'd all rather just sleep for those few extra minutes. Our DOLs were another great example of us just being open and letting the world see us for what we were without all the filters and fakeness covering up the bad parts of us. DOLs are their version of chapel talks, except everyone has to give one, and the audience is invite only, so you can choose who you share with, and this is meant to have people be as open and honest as possible. However, no one took that offer, as everyone was just invited to everything. Everyone felt so comfortable in the community that they didn't care who came. People shared some of the deepest and most personal parts of themselves that day. I learned about the darker side of these kids and the parts they were ashamed of and hoped would never see the light of day. After each of these incredibly powerful talks, we all cried, hugged, smiled, and laughed. We laughed because we knew that none of that mattered. We all care for each other so much that keeping these parts of us hidden away because we were afraid of what might happen if our friends found out was pointless. These things are part of who we are. There's no sense in trying to deny that they're there. Instead of running away from your shadows and pretending they're not there just because you choose to ignore them, they'll never go away. Instead, you should acknowledge that they're there and enjoy their company. Our imperfections are the things in life that make us worth getting to know and make us worthwhile. There's a hot take here: nobody's perfect. And the sooner you get over that, and the sooner we all get over that, the sooner we can move on with our lives. I'm going to end this chapel talk the same way I ended my DOL. And that is to ask you all who you are, who you really are. But that's not the point. You can lie to others and to yourself even your whole life, and in the end, you will be the only one to know. So instead, I challenge you all to ask yourselves the question, who am I? You might like what you find. Thank you.